Hello, people. It is about a month away from the actual 2020 AP exam, so I felt like it would be a good time to reinforce our understanding of the basic DBQ prompt. Now, the reason we are going to spend time today on the prompts is because, as I've said since the beginning of the school year, students who misunderstand the prompt are at a significant disadvantage and are most likely going to struggle very, very, very much on this DBQ. Because remember, the College Board doesn't really care how good your essay is if the essay that is built on your claim does not address the prompt that is given to you. So in other words, if you get a prompt about empire building in Eurasia and you write about, I don't know, religion in the Americas, you could be totally accurate about religion in the Americas, but get 0 points because you did not address the prompt. So in order to address the prompt, it is absolutely critical that we understand what the prompt is asking. First, I'd like to point out my mug for today. It's, you can't read it. It says, "Mama needs some coffee." Yeah, I think that's right. Okay, so let's look at a couple of prompts. Now, I've assigned all of the units 1 through 6 DBQs that are available on AP Classroom 2. Sadly, only a couple of you have even opened those. You got to take a look, okay? Now, that being said, there are a couple in there that aren't appropriately worded, meaning that the wording of the prompt is not what you're going to see on the AP exam. What you're most likely going to see, and we know this because the last couple of years have had this type of phrasing, and the 2020 practice exams that were released to teachers also includes this phrasing. It should say something along the lines of evaluate the extent to which blank, and then the topic of the prompt. Okay, so we're going to look at this and so that we can understand, looking at the docs with this prompt in mind, we can read those documents and sort of read for specific things. So the first prompt we're going to look at is, I think from, let's see, 1500, so it's unit, that looks like unit 4 or 5. No, probably 4. It says, evaluate the extent to which Christianity changed societies in Latin America in the period 1500 to 1800. Okay, great. Now, as a reminder, you should be able to write an LEQ for this prompt, meaning you don't have any documents. You should have the content knowledge in your brain to write an essay about that prompt. And that, keeping that in mind, you should start a framework of how you would answer that essay before you even read those documents. And the reason you do that is because those documents will kind of go into various categories that you've already put in place based on your understanding of the prompt. So let's look at this one. So, excuse me. For all of these prompts, it says evaluate the extent. That means there is a whole range of extent that whatever happens. So in this case, there's a whole range of extent to which Christianity changed societies. So it could change society really significantly, moderately significantly, not significantly, not at all. Okay, those are the range of extent. Now, that included in that is some evaluative type terms of the types of changes. So the question kind of insinuates that there's going to be change, but there's different types of change, right? There's big change, little change, long-lasting change, short-term change, good change, bad change, positive, negative, all these types of words that you're going to want to think about it to include in your writing. And the reason you do that, and again, as I'm taking this exam, I'm going to jot some of that stuff down before I even look at the documents, because as I see the documents, I'm going to start seeing, oh yeah, Doc 3, that looks like a positive effect. Put that in a bucket over here. Doc 4, negative effect. That's over here in this other bucket. And that way you can easily structure your essay and, more importantly, your thesis to work around those types of changes that address this prompt. So we're looking at Latin America, one region. We're looking at a time period, 1500 to 1800. But we're looking at different types of changes that Christianity imparted to those places. Again, you're going to see through the documents whether they were good or bad, long-lasting or whatever, but you already have that framework so that as you read, you can quickly annotate those documents and put them in those various buckets or groupings or whatever. Okay? All right, so let's move on to another one and just see how this goes. Okay, the next one says this. It says, evaluate the extent to which various religious responses to wealth accumulation in Eurasia in the period circa 600 BCE to 1500 CE differed from states' responses to wealth accumulation. That's a tough question. That actually was the prompt several years ago for the DBQ on the actual AP exam, and it was tough. It was really hard. Okay, but let's break it down just real quickly. We have a large landmass. We have Eurasia. We have religious responses to wealth accumulation. That's our topic. So in other words, as people get wealth or rich or money or whatever, the state religion or the philosophy or worldview of a particular place tells those people who are rich to do stuff with their money. In other words, if I get rich and I adhere to the Buddhist religion is going to have various teachings and instructions on what I should do with my money. That's the idea. Okay? So you also have state responses to wealth accumulation. That means the governments. So there's already a point of comparison built into the prompt. That should tell you that some of the documents are going to be focused on religious teachings, and some of the documents are going to be focused on state kind of decrees or laws or speeches or something like that. So in other words, you might have like an emperor over here in China saying, hey, you rich person over there, you should do this with your money. And then another document, you'll have a religious figure saying, hey, rich person, you should do this with your money. And these are the different types of responses, okay? And you have a range of time, and so you can kind of evaluate the changes over that time. But either way, you're already set up in your mind to be looking for it's a state response or a religious response. You already are looking for different types of responses. So you could either be like, hey, that's awesome that you're rich, or you should not seek money. That would be a kind of a negative response towards wealth accumulation. And so you can categorize each document based on that just by reading the prompt. And again, the purpose of all of this is so that as you read these prompts, you are looking through a specific lens as you read the documents after that. You know what to look for in the documents. This saves you time. This helps you organize your essay. This helps you structure your thesis. And it should ensure that you get as many points as possible. Okay, let's do one more real quickly, and then we'll hopefully move on to some questions at the end. Okay, the next one is evaluate the extent to which railroads affected the process of empire building in Afro-Eurasia between 1860 and 1918. This was also the DBQ prompt a couple of years ago. This was supposedly a very easy one, but you have a topic, railroads and empire building, their relationship to each other. You have a very large landmass, Afro-Eurasia, and you have a short time period, 1860 to 1918. So with that, I'm going to look for a couple things in these docs. First, I'm going to kind of create a bucket for each different region, because I have Africa, I have Europe, and I have Asia. So I'm going to assume I might see a document from each one of those, or maybe there's more documents for Africa and another half of the documents are for Asia. So maybe railroads had a bigger impact over here versus here. The next one, the next set of buckets I might have is the type of impact it might have, or rather the positive versus negative. So did railroads heavily impact empire building in one place versus another? Were they longer lasting? Were they positive? Were they negative? And so I might categorize each document based on that. I could also look at the various empires that are using these railroads to build their empires. So for example, maybe I have 3 documents that are from the British Empire, and then I have another 2 that are from France or 1 from Russia. I'm not sure yet, I haven't seen the documents, but let's assume that there's going to be a little bit of difference built in based on who's making the empires with their railroads. Okay, so again, all of this is to say that I'm already creating these groupings or buckets of topics within the broader topic of the prompt without having even read the documents. Again, if you're not reading these documents with purpose and with a specific, looking for specific things before you tackle them, it's going to be overwhelming to you. It's going to take too long. You're going to end up reading the documents multiple times. My recommendation would be to read the documents maybe 1.5 times, depending on how good your annotations are. And if you do this through the lens that I'm telling you, then you should be in really good shape time-wise to write a really good essay. I hope this helps. We'll have more to come. In the meantime, Mama needs some coffee.